Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Crime Podcast. This podcast is ran by two ladies who play games, mumble profanities, and laugh way too often. Also, this podcast covers topics of sensitive nature, and as such, listener discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome back to the Wheel of Crime podcast. My name is Jen.
My name is Emily. Welcome back. It is still January, and we are very happy about it.
Ugh, I hate January. Honestly, January is the worst.
I love it how it's like literally your birthday this month. But I feel like it's the overall vibes of the month. After your birthday, I feel like I have nothing to look forward to. It's just like cold outside. And then people are like, oh, Valentine's Day is coming up. And I'm like, okay, and that's like a month away still?
Also, I feel like as a holiday, Valentine's Day does not even hold a candle to what Halloween is.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't mind Valentine's Day. Like, it's nice to like have an excuse to go on like a fancy date with my husband number 0. But
with your assistant to the wife, yep.
Yeah. But like, I don't know. It's just, I feel like the older I get, the less that I'm like, I care at all about it.
I totally agree with you. Sorry. Something just landed on my nose. I think I've got fruit flies or something in here. But yeah, I agree with the Valentine's Day thing. My thing too is like, I think if you've been with the same person for a while, it's almost like you already have like a dating routine of doing the things that you like to do together. And like, if you're already with a person that you value spending time with, then it's kind of like, what more do you do for Valentine's Day? Like, and you don't really want your partner, at least in my case, I don't want my partner spending more money on me or, you know, trying to treat me. Christmas just happened. Like, I have a birthday. Like, I'm good.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I like the flowers and I like the excuse to go out to like a cool fancy restaurant because me and my husband usually will go and like try a new restaurant on our like list of places to try in Calgary. So that's fun. Yeah, but I'm also like, we could literally do that any day.
That makes sense for living in Calgary, though, to like pick something new and fancy to go to. See, for living in the countryside, it's like, ooh, we could make craft dinner again. Ooh la la.
Ordering pizza.
Or order a pizza and go pick it up in town, which I have done before. It is pretty good. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, is there anything from this last week that you've done that you want to share on the pod for our listeners? What's new in the life of Jen?
Oh, God, nothing. I've literally just been working ever since the strike ended a few months ago now. Work has just been fucking nuts. So, that's like all that's going on in my life right now is work. So what's new, really? Nothing.
Fair. I know I keep trying to be like, what about like after work? Like what new thing have you done? Like what new movie have you watched or whatever?
I mean, it's hard because literally I work 12 to 16 hours a day. So there's no after work. There is only weekends. Mm-hmm. But I did go see the new Mean Girls musical movie last night.
How was that?
It was awful.
I've heard that.
I hated it. And I like musicals. I like Mean Girls. I wanted to like this movie. You know, Renee Rapp has a gorgeous voice. Like, this should have been a movie that I enjoyed. Like, this is like, I'm the ideal demo for this movie, I feel. Mm-hmm. But I hated it. Like, I felt like I don't know. A lot of the choices I just didn't like. It was longer than the original movie and covered less subject matter. Like, and I just felt like it was a very watered down version of the original. Some of the performances were good. Like, I thought Renee Rapp did a good job. I thought the girl who played the new Katie, I almost said Caddy, It did a good job. You know, Tina Fey's great as always, but like a lot of the performance, I was like, oof, this is not good.
So then whose performance in the movie would you say was your least favorite then?
It was definitely the two women who played Karen Smith and Gretchen Wieners. Like, I feel like both of those performances were pretty bad.
Yeah. Sorry. So, for our listeners, in case this makes it into the final episode, my cat just decided to shove his whole butt in my face. I don't really know why. So I've got all of my recording equipment in my hands because I don't want anybody knocking it over. Oh, I can see what they're looking at.
Second cat isn't coming.
Hang on. Do you want to see what they're looking at? The stray cat came by.
Oh, he's so cute. Did you guys end up building that enclosure for him?
We did. I don't know if he's used it or not because there's no snow there for me to see footprints or anything. I hope he is, but he's still coming by and eating, which is what he's doing right now. Yeah, he made it through. Andrew was pretty worried about him not being able to make it out alive, but he did, and he's here, and now you got to see him.
Yeah, for the people listening at home, it was literally minus like 45 in the province of Alberta last week.
Oh, yeah.
Was it? Or the week 2 weeks ago? Something like that.
Yeah.
So anything outside had a very
minimal chance of survival. We were very worried because basically we've had the stray cat coming around for a while, and in the summertime, anything that's a stray usually does okay, especially living in the country because they just eat squirrels and mice and whatever else they can catch, and there's a lot to catch out here. The issue is that in the winter times, all of those things are hibernating and there is no food, so then they gravitate more towards like human garbage and like other things. So we've been putting out literal cat food because we're not completely heartless. And then it got to be minus 40, and so we decided to build this little cat shelter, but we didn't see him for like 3 days, or her, I don't know what it is. And I was so stressed about it because I was like, oh my gosh, what if we never see it again? And then he came back and ate like 3 giant bowls of dry food, and then has just been coming back ever since. So he's doing good. Or she.
That's good.
They are doing good. They still are very scared of people and kind of just tolerate me. But I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. The Mean Girls thing of what I saw about it, as far as like people who watched it and had critical opinions about it, is a lot of people felt like it was a bit of a sellout and kind of like somebody tried to rebrand it in a way where it was, somebody said, I'm trying to figure out the right way to say this, because a big thing that I heard was like people felt like the branding was weird, and then also that there were brands being advertised too heavily within the movie itself. Like it was kind of like a sellout for marketing brands. And I was like, oh, okay.
See, okay. I feel like I have a very unique perspective on this as someone who works in the film industry. Mm-hmm. The product placement thing because I know a lot of people were complaining about that online. Honestly, I feel like it wasn't that bad compared to a lot of other modern media. Like, it wasn't that crazy, in my opinion.
Do you
like,
think it was more...
it wasn't in your face,
was
for
it just
sure.
more noticeable? Like what is the deal then? Because I'm probably not going to watch it. I just see what people's opinions are, and I'm like, oh, cool. Like, this is what people think. Like,
honestly, like, I think the issue is people, I don't know if it's people just don't watch. I watch a lot of movies. I'll come out and say that. I watch a lot of fucking movies. So, like, it's just not that uncommon. It's definitely a choice that a lot of movies usually are a little bit more subtle about. Mm-hmm. But product placement is in a lot of movies. So it's not, I don't know, it just wasn't that crazy in my opinion. I just think that other movies are just perhaps better at being more subtle, you know?
I can see the subtlety thing. Because, like, there's been lots of times where you see something and there's, like, a Coca-Cola truck drives by and you don't really think about it. You're like, yeah, that's, like, real life. But then it's in a movie, so then it's product placement.
Yeah. And I think the other problem with the product placement was the brands that they chose to work with. Like, Elf was a prominent brand in the movie, and I think a lot of people's complaint about that is, why would Regina George, who has literally always been a rich teenager, be using Elf? Why wouldn't she be using something more high-end, like, something from Sephora rather than from a drugstore,
I think that makes sense, though. Like, that would be something where people would look at it and be like, oh, weird, like...
Yeah, like, it's just a brand that doesn't fit her vibe. And also, people really complained. I heard a lot of complaints about the costume design in the movie. Like, people calling this version of Regina George like the Shein version of Regina George, which is a really funny burn that I do agree with.
Well, it wasn't just this one that I heard comments about the costuming either. There was like, what's that other show that came out that was very like high school drama-ish? It was like a year or two ago that people were really into. It was like some blonde girl and like Zendaya was in it, and there was like drugs involved, and
Euphoria.
Apparently Euphoria's costume designing also got a hit because a lot of people said that they saw the exact same things that the people in the show are wearing on like Shein and Cider and like a couple other those like cheaper mass marketing places.
Yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is, as someone who works in film, not to blow anyone's mind, the people who buy the costumes literally do shop at real stores. Like, not everything is handmade and like specifically crafted for that production. Like, the costume people literally go shop. They buy shit off of Amazon. They buy shit offline. Like, so yeah, it makes sense.
Well, and like, my thing though is like, here's my thing, okay? And this is just my opinion as somebody who literally does not watch movies or television. Like, I am a grandma, and this is my opinion. When I see people in a show, they already look better because they're on a screen. It doesn't really matter the brand of their clothes or whatever, or if they're like ugly in real life. Everybody looks better on film, especially nowadays. So like, it doesn't particularly matter like where something comes from. It's just meant to fit the vibes of whatever these characters are doing. So the fact that people even get upset about and being like, well, I saw this same exact thing online, well, go buy it then. You're either saying it because you want it, or you're saying it because you're annoyed, and quit being annoyed. I don't know what to say.
Yeah, I mean, I get the complaints for that in particular when, a character like Regina George.
She should not be wearing, stuff from Shein.
Yeah, she literally lives in a mansion. She's the it girl. Like, why is she wearing ugly Shein clothes? That's a great question.
You would put that on Katie, though, and you would maybe put, like, Regina in, like, thrifted, vintage, higher brand type stuff, like Coach or whatever, right?
Yeah, I feel like the complaint is not that they're from Shein. It's just they don't... The looks don't fit her character. Like, the original Regina George was so iconic and trendy and fashionable and, like... So...
And that was part of the reason why people were jealous of her. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, this is my main complaint about the movie. No one they don't even give Regina George a chance to be mean in the movie. Like, she is not mean in the movie at all. Like, she's just kind of, like, grumpy, Like, she's a bit sassy, but, like, she doesn't do anything mean in the movie. Whereas in the original, she's a fucking asshole.
She was such a bitch in the original. Like, you watch it and you're like, oh, that's a mean girl. That's weird. I don't know, man.
The only one who does anything remotely mean in this remake is Katie, which is so weird.
It seems like somebody didn't really research their resource material as thoroughly as they probably should have.
But the thing is this movie was written by Tina Fey. So I don't even know what to tell you. There's literally no reason.
Weird. There has to be some kind of reason. I don't understand how that even happens.
I don't know. It's like me and my partner John were talking about it a lot last night after we saw the movie, and
Hashing it
we're
out,
both
being like, hey, we gotta figure it out. Solve the
well,
mystery.
we're just like talking about it, and we're like, this movie, like, it just doesn't like make any sense. Like, I don't know who this was for or why. Like, they didn't even market it as a musical, so people went in surprised that it was a musical.
I did also hear that, yeah, for a lot of people who wanted to watch it and didn't expect a musical.
It just, I feel like I have no idea what they were trying to accomplish with this, but it makes sense that the studio dumped it in January with literally no hope for it at all.
They're like, we're disappointed. Even we know we failed. Here, eat it up, guys.
Pretty much. So
yeah. I would love to know, because I know that most movies go through like a first screening, right? Or something for people to kind of give their opinions or something. I would love to know what the heck people were saying about it after the first screening.
Like test audiences, yeah. I don't know, man. I can't imagine it was good. Which is why it was dumped in January.
Oh, God. I don't know. Now I'm also confused. I mean, after we record this episode, I'm going to go on a deep dive of, like, what the fuck happens behind the scenes for trash dumpster fire movies.
Oh, God. I mean, I could give you the dish later.
Oh, okay.
Because I've been on a lot of trash dumpster fire movies.
You're like, listen, Emily, been there, done that. Like, we'll talk about it later.
Don't worry. I'll give you all the details you want.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, I haven't done anything at all like that this week, because I generally also... So here's my thing. I also am not somebody who consumes a lot of new content. Like, I'm pretty comfortable with, like, a routine of, like, doing a lot of the same stuff all the time, which that's not really for a lot of people, but I enjoy it. So, this last week, I've just been playing, Pokemon Violet, because there was a new expansion thing that you could buy and play on the game, and then finishing reading this book series that I started. But, like... I don't know. I have this weird thing now where I play through some video game expansions and it just doesn't really feel worth the money. Like, you play it and you're like, this is such a small upgrade, if you want to call it, to the game you're already playing, where you're like,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't even know if I'm going to even finish playing it. Like, I was contemplating it last night and I was like, I think I'm done. On the other hand, though, the book I've been reading...
I think I'll go pierce my belly button instead.
Yeah, something along those lines, pretty much. Which, for our listeners, because you have no idea what's going on, I also had the compulsion this week to pierce my ears and then try to re-pierce my belly button. And I say try, because apparently if you have an older belly button piercing and there's lots of scar tissue, that's just, like, not a thing that you can do sometimes. But I gave it a good shot. I gave it the old 1, 2, 3, 4, and it did not pan out. But so it's still there. Like, I still have a belly button piercing. It's just in its same old place, and there it will remain. As for the ear piercings I gave myself, definitely traumatizing. Don't really recommend it. I never have either. When people ask me and they're like, oh, like, I'm thinking of going and getting this pierced, I'm like, great. Go to a tattoo shop, book it in, pay the money, do what they tell you to do, and call it a day. But then I look in the mirror and I'm like, but think of all the money I could save. Money and time. So I'm just going to pierce my ears at 3 a.m.
Not even just her ears, folks. Her cartilage, like a helix piercing.
Yeah. So also don't recommend that because it's kind of
which gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Challenging. It gave me the heebie-jeebies too. I very nearly passed out with like a needle in my ear in the bathroom. So that was fun. But on a brighter note, I've been reading my very first. I'm really curious if you're gonna know what this is because I've been going on a whole learning experience. I've been reading my very first Omegaverse series. Like, book series. Do you know what the Omegaverse is?
I feel like I've heard of that.
I guarantee you've seen it on, like... You know how you get those advertisements sometimes on your social media where it's, like, a book? It's, like, a piece of a book, and they try to get you to, like, download an app so you can read the book?
Uh-huh.
It's very popular on those kinds of things. So Omegaverse is basically like alpha, omega, beta type stuff. And a lot of books that are like werewolf books, I guess, use this. Because it's like alphas are like big and strong and they give off hormones that attract omegas, and omegas are little and small and they're so attracted to alphas. And I don't know how betas tie in. This is my first series, so I have no idea what the fuck is going on. But it has been a very interesting read. Like I've learned a lot these last couple weeks.
You never disappoint me, Emily. Like, you're always doing something where I have many questions, and that's all I'll say about that.
Well, I'll update you maybe on our next episode about how the series has been going and all of that. But so far, it's been a trip. I'll tell you that much. For any of our listeners who are into reading and are on the same psychopath that I'm on, funny enough, the book series is called the Psycho Shifter series.
Jesus.
So, anyway, but we've been talking for a while.
We have.
I will spin our wheel of questions, and then you can tell me your questions.
Okay.
Number 3.
Have you ever participated in a TikTok trend?
Yes.
Which one? Would you like to elaborate?
I guess. So, I'm not somebody who posts a whole bunch on social media. I just get I get very hypercritical, and then I embarrass myself, and then I just don't do it. But I have a friend of mine who's into kind of the same nerdy shit that I am, and she was like, oh, like, what if I post to this trend, and then you can post as well? Because it was like a Pokemon gym leader trend where you like share a picture of yourself, and you're like, this is what my Pokemon gym would look like, and you pick like a place, a Pokemon, a theme, like that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, cool, like if you want to do that, like I'll do it with you, I don't care, that seems kind of fun. And it was at that point it was more of like a community thing. I was like, yeah, this is like for me and my friends, like I'm not worried about it. So I posted it, and then immediately I had like a flood of comments come in where people were just like roasting me. They were like, this person's clearly never played Pokemon before. Ooh, blah, 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 blah. Like, just being very weirdly critical. And I was like, homies, it's not that serious. It's a Pokemon trend. Like, we're talking about a world that isn't even real. This is a non-real universe. This is a video game. And like an anime series. Like, I am not worried about it. But then I ended up moving it, because I didn't realize I'd post it to public anyway, so I just moved it to friends only, and I think it's still up. Maybe. I'll have to check.
Aw, love that for you. Yes. We love online haters.
I seem to be very good at finding haters. I'm not sure what it is about me, but I got those vibes, I guess. But what about you?
It's one of your special skills.
Yeah, it is.
I also don't post to TikTok very often. I have done a few trends, like, in real life, like, you know, the one, like, just, like, not even, like, posting it or making a video of it, just, like, where you see something and you try it and, like, y'all send it. Like, me and you have done in that before, where,
where
we'll make a mood board of, like, what I think what vibes you give off, and then we'll send it to each other. Yeah, but then you just send it privately
and then not post it. Yeah, okay, yeah.
I've done one publicly. It was, like, peak pandemic times when I think it was one of my first videos I posted, where it was like, show me which random YouTube video is like your cringe, like, comfort video or whatever. I think I posted that. But yeah, I don't really post very often. We did the trend of the ghost photo shoot.
Oh, yeah, we
did do that.
Yeah, back when that was popular. I think that was like 2019, 2020, 2021.
Definitely 2020.
Yeah, it was around the pandemic season. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there was any other ones, but I think you and I, we're definitely on the same page when it comes to posting. I would love to know how people talk themselves into posting stuff and not immediately take it down. I would love to know the concept behind that.
See, I get into the habit of, if I see someone on TikTok that's, like, suggested to me, as in, like, I know them in real life, I just block them. Because I'm like, they don't need to see that. That's not for them.
Oh, I should start
None of your
doing
business.
that just in case. I didn't even think about that. I just check my privacy settings and I'm like, okay, like they can't find me, right?
I purposefully block anyone who I see that I could know in real life.
That's a good idea. I'm gonna have to do that now. Maybe that'll help with my overall embarrassment issues.
It just protects my peace, honestly, and it makes me feel like if I did want to post something, I would be okay with it, maybe.
That's my thing. I'm okay with strangers perceiving me, but I don't want to be perceived by anybody I know from real life. Forget about that. Unless we're friends. Like, that's different, I guess.
Yeah, like, obviously I don't have you blocked because I see your stuff or whatever, and you see mine, but...
I mean, I hope not. I haven't checked, but...
But I do have a lot of people blocked for that reason.
Oh, sounds good. Sorry, I had a yawn attack. It's been a rough week, as you all know now, considering I lost my mind twice, for sure.
Oh, God.
Maybe more.
All right,
than
well,
that.
let's spin the question wheel again.
Number 4.
Have you ever had a video on TikTok go viral?
No, but I very weirdly enough had a comment go viral, kind of. I have something like almost 10,000 likes on a comment that I made on a video. So that's interesting. And it's like the dumbest thing ever too. I like how, so again, because you're listening to us, you can't see what the look that Jen is giving me, but it's just like a blank go on kind of thing. She's like, oh, great, what the fuck did you say? It was like some guy in like the Yukon or like Alaska or something. So, as a Canadian, I feel like most Canadians will understand this. You run your water in the wintertime if you don't want your pipes to freeze. Some places have to run their outdoor water. Occasionally, other places will have to run things like if they have like a garage that's unheated, you have to run your water regularly. Other random shit, right? Especially when it gets cold outside. So, this guy...
Because it can be like minus 45.
Because it can be like minus 45 and people's waters are hooked up differently and not everybody has to do it, but lots of people have to do it. And so I grew up in the country. I also currently live there. This is just a thing lots of people have to do that I know. So this person posted a video of them running their garden hose outside over the fence, and they have the water running, and it's been running for a while because you can see that's made a little bit of like an ice slide from the garden hose into the yard or whatever it is, and people were losing their fucking minds in the comments. They were like, what a waste, like why on earth would you ever do this? Like it was a bunch of people basically being like, protect the environment in the comments. And so I commented and I was like, he runs the water so the pipes don't freeze. This is purely a Canadian problem. Like XOXO something. Because it was one of those things where I read through it and I was like, I just can't handle the level of insanity that I'm seeing in the comments right now. Like, because it's clearly coming from people who either A, don't care enough to look up why somebody would do that, or B, are just looking to be mean. And I was like, no, like, this is a thing.
There's a reason.
Yeah, this is a thing. People do it, and he's doing it for a reason. Let's all, like, calm down. Like, all of our titties need to settle, okay? And so I commented that, and like it just blew up, like one after the other one. And I kept checking back in on the video sometimes because I get a notification every time it happens. And like there was like one day where it had like 100 likes, and the next day it was like 400. Next day, over 1,000 likes, and I was like, where did this video trend for all these people to be looking at my comment? And like, it was like me and this other random person who commented something basically about people being over dramatic, who kept like trending towards the top, but then eventually people just really liked what I said, I guess. And I was like, oh, the gift of gab, I guess I have.
Aw, love that for you.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the creator liked it, so I know my shit. I'm not stupid.
The creator's like, hell yeah, that's what I'm doing, girly pop.
Support. Pretty much. Yeah, what about you?
No. I've never had a video go viral. I feel like you would actually have to post videos for that to happen. So
I think, though, you post videos of other like, I don't think you'd post a video of yourself, but I could see you going potentially viral for, like, taking a video of something happening.
It's true. I mean, I guess I've had a video go viral that I've posted on, like, for work, on, like, my work, like, on a work page.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of fun and cool. But
Yeah, that's fun.
nothing that because I really don't post often on social media on my own accounts. Probably should, because I feel like it's one of those things that's,
I try to, like, convince myself I should do it more, because I've noticed that it's almost like keeping a scrapbook now, where you can look back on times of your life or people that you used to hang out with, and you see it more through pictures and videos now through social media than you do necessarily on your own phone. So I am trying for that, but I got those mental barriers. I'm just too embarrassed as a person.
Yeah, I'm just like, I really just don't want to. It is embarrassing.
Jen's
So
just worried about getting famous, guys. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, let's move for our next question.
2.
When did you start using TikTok?
Start using TikTok? Oh, I downloaded it in 2018 briefly. I think I had it for like 2 months. But 2018 TikTok is very different than what today's TikTok is. It was very, a lot of lip syncing, a little cringy, but people were, like, eating it up. Like, it was cringy, but people were having fun. But for me at the time, I was like, meh. Like, it didn't have enough variety for me to be interested in it. So then I uninstalled it, and then I re-downloaded TikTok, I think, in 2020.
Nice. Yeah, I remember I was very against downloading TikTok, because I don't even know why, because I think that was just the cool thing to be against it at the time. And for some reason I was like, yeah, why would I do that?
Jen's a hipster.
And then I caved and downloaded it during the pandemic at some point in 2020. And I've never looked back. And
I really do think the pandemic kind of made TikTok a little bit better, as sad as that is to say, because with so many people being bored at home, like, it actually made different. Now there's sides of it. There were, like, when I first downloaded, there were never sides of TikTok. It was just all kind of the same. Now it's like, oh, like, some people see this kind of stuff, and some people see this kind of stuff, and, like, cooking videos and all this other random stuff.
I think it's more niche now. Like, I think there's more niches on TikTok now. So I think that definitely helps with adding variety and keeping interest. But yeah, I love TikTok now. It's probably the social media app that I use the most now.
I like it for the variety reason, and I also like being able to not necessarily just have to watch one category of videos, that it's kind of learned the kind of stuff I want to see. So it's like, one thing I'll see some kind of, like, supernatural crazy thing that happened in the world, and the next one's like interior decorating, and then there's like a video of a cat doing something fun and crazy, and I'm like, this is my shit. I didn't have to look any of this up. It's just here for me.
Yeah. It's true. That's definitely the best part, is like the variety, and, like, I don't know, just, it's great. I love it.
I'm here for it. There was something else I was gonna say. I do this every fucking time. Yeah, you did answer the question. You said 2022. All right. Let's spin for our last question. I just was trying to remember if I asked you and if you answered. What is the last question?
The last question is, do you think if you could start any trend or challenge on TikTok, what would it be?
Badly explaining books that people have read. And I know I said something similar to this last week, but I kind of just really have a lot of fun reading a book and then giving a really bad explanation of what happens in it. It's kind of like when people used to do those videos where it's like poorly explain the job that you do. Like, it's kind of like that. I don't know what it is. It kind of feeds a part of me. I'm really into it.
I love that for you. I feel like you should pursue your dream and just do that.
I'll just make it a trend so I could just. That's the fun thing, is that that might be something I legitimately try and do and be like, oh my god, it's a trend, but I'm the only one who's doing it. Just to get.
I'm just a trendsetter.
Yeah, just so nobody else judges me if they make their own, because then they'd be like, oh my god, it's a trend. Like, obviously other people are doing it, and it's just me talking about books that I've read and explaining them really badly.
Love that for you.
Mm-hmm. What about you?
I probably should have thought about this before I asked the question. I would like to start a trend of...
It could be something similar. Badly explaining movies that you've seen.
I don't know. I feel like if I was going to start a trend on TikTok, it would be like poorly doing the hobbies / DIYs that I see online. Because, like, for example, my algorithm has been feeding me lately a lot of these videos of people, like, professionally cleaning, like, Coach bags that they've thrifted. So, of course, I bought a vintage Coach bag, ordered all the supplies, and started doing it the other day. And I was like, this is not turning out the way it does these videos. So I feel like that could be my trend, is like poorly doing the things. And like also during Christmas, air dry clay, like making things out of air dry clay was a trend. You know, I made Emily a
little incense cowboy hat, which I'm still using. I think it's a lot of fun. I love pulling it out because Andrew's like, oh no, it's incense time. And I'm like, yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
I did try making my sister-in-law a set of coasters and then accidentally broke them right before we were about to like head home for the holidays, and was very sad. So they're just like sitting in like the corner.
In their lonesome, broken state. I mean, glue exists. We could still make it work.
And then I tried making a checkers board for my sister-in-law as well, because I was like, oh, that'd be fun. Like, she likes checkers, so like I can make her this cute like air dry clay checkers board. And oh my god, why did I do that? It's like one of the fucking hardest things to make. Why did I decide that was a good idea? I have no idea, but Jesus, the thing fell apart immediately, and I like literally threw it in the garbage.
Fair enough. That would be a fun trend, like doing other people's hobbies, but in a really shitty way.
Yeah. So
I love
there
that.
You go.
That's fun.
That's the trend I'll start.
All right.
Because I'm already doing it.
Because that's actually my life. I'm going to guess then that your story for me today is somebody does a murder on TikTok, or they do some sort of crime on TikTok that ends up getting them arrested because the police see that TikTok or something on their own TikTok.
The investigators see their challenge on their For You page.
But could you imagine being a police officer, being on TikTok on your break or something, and you just see fucking somebody committing a crime, and you're like, oh, and that's my city.
There was a crime on TikTok, but not in the way that you guessed. So I'll give you like a 5 out of 10 for that one.
Okay, I'll take it.
But let me just get right into our story today, since we've been talking forever. Oh my god.
We just love to talk. It's fine, but I'm ready to listen now.
So Jessica Lewis was born on August 28th, 1984 to her parents Rocky and Patty. She had 2 brothers named Justin and Jason, and in 2012, Jessica started an 8-year-long relationship with Austin Wenner, whom everyone knew as Cash. Austin was 8 years younger than Jessica, 8 years younger than Jessica, but from all accounts, they seemed to have a very loving and happy relationship. Jessica was a mother of 3 sons and 1 daughter, whose names I'm not going to disclose because I think that they're still minors. This story is fairly fresh.
Gotcha. Probably a good call.
Jessica's aunt, Gina Jeske, said she was the most caring person who showed her big heart while working with developmentally disabled adults along with her mother. Now, raising 4 kids can definitely present its challenges, and one of the challenges that Jessica and Austin faced from time to time was financial troubles. One of Austin's relatives said that the couple wasn't always the most flush with cash and occasionally struggled to make ends meet, and I feel like this was probably especially true in 2020 when the pandemic was happening.
I would agree with that. I feel like that's something we heard a lot about during the pandemic years, was people not being able to work and then having no money, because that's what happens.
Yeah. So the couple was renting a room in a house in Burien, Washington. Their landlord was an older man named Michael Lee Dudley. And at the time of this story, Michael was 62 years old. So on June 9th, 2020, Jessica and Austin were a bit late with their rent, so Michael went to the property to confront them over that unpaid rent. They got into an argument, and a neighbor said that they heard gunfire and heard a man's voice yelling, "Please don't do this, just let me leave," and pleading for his life. The neighbors were obviously very concerned, so they called the cops, and when the police responded, the landlord, Michael, didn't open the door, so the police just left the scene. They're like, yeah, I'm sure it's fine.
How does this happen? Like, I feel like there's so many stories where it's like, yeah, the neighbors recorded gunshots and somebody crying for help inside of that house, and then the police are like, oh, nobody's answering the door, so, meh.
Oh, well.
Must be fine.
I'm sure they're fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they probably should have stayed to investigate, because inside the house, Michael had shot both tenants, then butchered their bodies and stuffed the remains into suitcases, which he then threw into different bodies of water.
Jesus Christ. Okay, and even, like, just very briefly going back, my thought as a police officer would be, if somebody reported something wildly suspicious, and I get to a house and I hear nothing, it's probably on purpose, is my thought.
Yeah.
I would be suspicious. I'd be like, hey, I'm either coming back right away so we can get the shit figured out, or I'm coming in. Like, those are my options.
Yeah. Literally, later that night, on June 9th, Michael had another tenant move in to Jessica and Austin's room.
That night?
That night. So this is the part that's the craziest for me. So just let me tell you what happened next, because I have no words. So the new tenant alleged that she found a pile of clothes in her room that she just decided to rent that day, that appeared to have a bloody hand visible underneath the clothes. And Michael had what she believed to be defense wounds on his person as well. She later told police Michael had scratches and broken eyeglasses. So Deputy Prosecutor Raymond Lee much later, the body would have been in the last stages of rigor, so a hand sticking up wouldn't be unreasonable given the timeline. So after this new tenant mentioned what she'd seen to Michael in a joking manner to avoid possible violence on her person, he told her to go somewhere for a while so that he could clean up the mess. And this apparently involved painting the room where the murders took place. So she just left and came back, and she's like, yeah, this is fine now.
Do we know how it is that she ended up in this shotgun rental agreement where she's in the house the same time frame that a murder happened?
No, we do not.
And she wasn't. Okay. I understand that if you're looking for somewhere cheap to live, you might overlook some things. I understand. However, if I'm looking at a man who is my landlord and I am a single woman and I'm like, my friend, your glasses are broken and you look like you've been in a fight and there's a bloody handprint on the wall, I might actually just leave.
Not a bloody handprint, Emily. A literal bloody hand.
Oh,
human hand.
I thought you were talking about a handprint, like a human hand.
A human hand sticking up from this pile of clothes.
Absolutely fucking not. Absolutely fucking not. No! No! No, we do not move into houses where bodies are in. No! We don't do that.
Yeah, so anyways, I have no words for that, but on June 19th, 2020, just about like 10 days after their murder, the bodies of Jessica and Austin were found in kind of a bizarre way. A group of teens in Seattle found a suitcase containing their remains on the rocky shores of Alki Beach after a popular smartphone app, Randonautica.
I saw that
Randonautica.
video. I saw that video before it was taken down off of TikTok. I know what video you're talking about.
Yeah. So the Randonautica prompted them to explore the area. Before we get into it, just in case our listeners don't know what Randonautica is, it's basically an app that gives you random coordinates to go explore. You're supposed to try to manifest what you'll find at these coordinates. An example of this would be if you're looking for guidance on what career path you should choose, you try to manifest the answer. The app gives you coordinates, and your answer might just be at those coordinates. Mm-hmm. The idea was meant to encourage a choose-your-own-adventure reality game, and in 2020... there was a TikTok trend to record yourself going to the coordinates given to you from the app and showing everyone what you stumble across.
Yep.
So the group had been filming their explorations and posted a video on TikTok. The user @UgHenry posted the TikTok on June 20th, 2020, and it showed the group stumbling upon a small black suitcase. At first, they were laughing in the video as they initially thought that the suitcase was filled with money. One of the girls in the video was egged on by the group to open the suitcase, and so she, from a distance, lifts it up using a stick and revealed a black plastic bag filled with something. As soon as she opened it, the smell was overwhelming, read one of the video captions.
Yep, because I saw this video, and I'm not sure if you had the chance to see this video, but yeah, it's pretty much exactly as you described. Like, it's literally like a windy-looking beach and a suitcase, like, up on the rocks of the beach. And she lifts it up. And in this video, you can see the black garbage bag, but she, like, immediately turns around to look at her friends, and she just has this look of, like, oh no, like something's wrong kind of face. And then the video, like, ends. Like, it doesn't continue after that.
Yeah, so they then called the police, and there's, like, a couple... not all from UgHenry, but there's like a few different videos from this group. And so one of those videos showed the group waiting for 3 hours for the police to arrive. Meanwhile, the suitcase started getting like swooped up by the oncoming tide. And so when the police finally did arrive, they had to like send out divers to go fish it back up because the teens didn't want to tamper with it just in case it actually was a body. Because I feel like the smell is pretty cementing of what it is.
Yeah, and they're thinking at that point, like, we don't know what it is, but there's something dead in there.
Yeah. So, Seattle police later confirmed the contents inside the suitcase were indeed human remains, and the investigators had found several other bags in the area, also body parts. They found another duffel bag nearby, and a third bag was recovered from the Duwamish River a few days later. A local news outlet reported the remains belonged to 35-year-old Jessica Lewis and 27-year-old Austin Wenner. However, not all of Austin's remains were recovered, which is still a very deep source of pain for his family, unfortunately. Right, yeah. So the TikTok quickly went viral and drew 30 million views on the platform, which came under fire for refusing to take down the recording. Mm-hmm. The video was ultimately deleted several months later after family members continually asked TikTok and the creator to take it down, which I feel like... I just feel like if the families are asking you to take down the video and it's literally their dead family members, you should just do it. Like, why?
Yeah. But we also think with we think with a brain that is a little bit more empathetic and older than teenage brains think, though, because you got to think today's world, and I'm only saying this because I have a sister or like a couple of siblings, I guess, who are teenagers right now. Having a viral video is like a badge of honor. It doesn't really matter what the content is necessarily. So for a teenager to take that video I already have an understanding on why they wouldn't want to take it down. Like, obviously, for us, we're like, well, of course, like, why would you keep that up? Like, the families are asking you to take it down, and it's a pretty horrific way to find a family member. But for people who don't know these people and also were the people to find it, they're like, well, I don't care. Like, it's my video. Like, why does it matter? Which is also a lack of empathy, and it's just kind of a social media culture, I think, for that particular age group. But unfortunately,
Yeah. Yeah. I get it, but like also it's just
like, it
I
makes me
feel
want
like
to
it
throw
would
up,
be
and I
very
wouldn't
hard.
do it. But I
Yeah.
understand why the thought process was behind why it took so long for it to get taken down.
Yeah. So Jessica's aunt, Gina, started a GoFundMe page to raise money to find the killer. What I can do is keep this alive in everybody's minds, she said. Somebody knows something, somebody saw something, they might be scared to say anything. You know what? The smart one of the bunch is going to turn themselves in because no jury is going to have any sympathy for any of them. Gina said the families and 4 children left behind deserve answers and justice. I want somebody to pay for what they've done, she said. And if it brings any kind of solace to my family, I'll do it because they are just devastated. After the bodies were found and identified, an investigation was launched, obviously, and a search of Michael's home and the room the couple shared was conducted. During the search, investigators found bullet holes, spent cartridges, and blood. According to court documents, it was obvious the room had recently been cleaned, which we knew because he already had a new tenant in there. He was already, like, moving on to the next one.
Yeah, he was on it.
Aside from the victims' remains, which showed that Jessica and Austin had been fatally shot, all of the state's evidence against Michael was circumstantial. Police never found the gun used in the killings, and only a small smudge of Austin's blood was found in the bedroom where investigators think the couple's remains were dismembered. Phone records played a large role in the state's case and were absolutely pivotal. Michael's cell phone record showed it had pinged off a tower near Alki Beach on June 18th. It had not done so in the 3 months prior, according to the investigation. The investigation also revealed that Jessica's cell phone, which she shared with Austin, was turned off after 7 p.m. on the night they were murdered. The records show that Michael's cell phone pinged off a tower near West Seattle's Alki Beach late on the 18th, which I already said. The next afternoon, as you know, is when the dismembered bodies were found by the TikTok teens. Michael's defense attorney, Bradley Barshans, later criticized the state attorney's use of the phone records, which, you know, was like their main source of evidence, but he argued that the prosecutors cherry-picked which data to present to jurors, telling them that the data was unreliable and it's next to impossible to determine a person's location based on cell phone pings. Michael was charged and arrested on August 19th, 2020 for second-degree murder, and the state put what they thought was a very strong case together, despite having no eyewitnesses or signs that directly linked Michael to the crime. Which, I don't know, I feel very conflicted after, like, I don't know, we'll get more into it after I've told you everything, just because I'm curious to hear your opinion on it, but it's interesting that they don't really have a lot of physical evidence for this guy. You would think that dismembering bodies would leave more physical evidence.
You know why I think that, though? I think that one of the reasons that they do not have the physical evidence that they're asking for is because of how quickly he moved in a new tenant. Because it would be so hard to figure out proper DNA evidence when he's the landlord. He probably has owned the place for a while. His DNA would be in there for a very long time. His tenants were living there for a while. They were murdered there by him, who he also would be there. And a new tenant was moved in before any sort of actual DNA could be taken between having a new person and their life and their belongings move into this place. Like, I can see why there would be a lack of DNA evidence, because it would be so convoluted at that point between, like, oh, like, what's the old evidence? What's the new evidence? What evidence actually makes sense for this? What amount of evidence is from the new tenant? Like, you know?
Yeah. I hear ya, but, yeah, I don't know. We'll get more into it later, because, like, I feel conflicted about it still.
I really do think it's from his express rental person coming in that night. Like, I do think that's a huge part of it.
I would agree. So the state attorney listed off more than 20 facts that would have had to have been a coincidence if Michael was innocent. Investigators point toward the neighbor who reported the gunshots and a man pleading for his life. Burien police went to the home, but no one was there. Michael couldn't explain why he wouldn't have answered the door that night in a subsequent police interview. It was determined that Jessica was shot at least twice, and that Austin was shot at least once before their bodies were mutilated and stuffed into bags and suitcases before being dumped into the Puget Sound, which is basically a complex system of interconnected marine waterways and basins in Seattle, for anyone who doesn't know. Another key argument in the state attorney's case was the new tenant Michael let in on June 9th allegedly saw a bloody hand sticking up out of the pile of clothes, which I feel like is a pretty convincing piece of evidence.
Well, especially because he parted out these people, like,
However, the defense attorneys argued that she was known to lie and explained a long history of crime. So basically, she was an unreliable witness in the court's eyes.
Okay.
Michael sat through the closing arguments with little movement. His attorneys claimed the man, aged 62 at the time of the murders, wouldn't have been able to pull off the crime. They also claimed that detectives failed to prove anything, insinuating that detectives performed shoddy work due to the media attention. Defense attorney Bradley Barshans said an attic-to-basement search of Michael's house by blood experts with the state patrol didn't turn up any evidence other than a smudge of Austin's blood. Firearm experts agreed the bullets found in the bedroom didn't go through a human body, he said. At one point, the defense attorney told jurors the average human body contains 5 liters of blood and lined up 5 2-liter bottles of Diet Coke on a ledge before the jury box as a visual aid to show jurors how much blood would have been at the scene. He said investigators' search tools, including cadaver dogs, were among the best available, but, quote, there just simply wasn't anything because nothing happened at my client's house. No blood was found in Michael's vehicles either. Deputy Prosecutor Raymond Lee said the woman who saw several guns in a sink and ultimately got rid of weapons for Michael also photographed apparent bullet strikes into furniture in the same bedroom, where police would later discover 2 bullet holes, one of them patched with plumber's putty and painted over. Lee noted that police later found a can of plumber's putty in Michael's dresser. When Austin's father couldn't reach Jessica or his son, he went to Michael's house, and Michael told him that the couple moved out. His father saw a pile of clothes in the garbage that he knew belonged to Austin. Quote, "We know they aren't exactly flush with money, so why would they leave their personal belongings behind if they were moving out voluntarily?" Deputy Prosecutor Raymond Lee asked. By the time Michael was arrested on August 19th, 2020, he had 2 months and 10 days to clean up his home. The crime was high profile due to the grisly nature of the crimes and because of how the bodies were discovered on TikTok. Jurors were shown a segment of the initial police interview where Michael seemed confused when questioned about the discovery of bullets inside his home. He admitted to accidentally discharging the gun inside his house, but he denied he'd ever fired a weapon in a room where bullet holes had been repaired and painted over shortly before investigators searched his home. So he's lying.
I have my own opinions about this, but alright.
No crime is perfect, but the things he missed created a trail that led police to him directly, Deputy Prosecutor Raymond Lee said. He told jurors that the state wasn't required to prove how or when the victims' bodies were dismembered or if other people were involved in the dismemberment and disposal of their remains. Defense attorney Bradley said that Michael maintains, quote, "other people committed this crime and that Jessica and Austin were scared of a group of people who had previously held them at gunpoint inside Michael's house," which is interesting. That if it's true, I don't know if it is.
Yeah, that's also, I mean, it muddles the pot a bit, but it doesn't take away from everything else either, though.
No. This process would have taken a lot of time and effort, and his willingness to take these extreme demonstrations the threat he poses to the community, charging documents read. This was done with likely the aid of others, according to charging documents. Dr. Kathy Taylor, Washington State forensic anthropologist, told Seattle police she believed there were possibly multiple people involved because the cuts on Jessica and Austin's bodies were disorganized and done in different manners with different items to cut them.
Okay.
In a brief statement to the judge, Michael said Austin and Jessica's deaths had nothing to do with unpaid rent, referencing a possible motive suggested by a witness who told police Michael had accused the couple of stealing from him, failing to pay rent, and resisting his efforts to get them to leave. He said, "This isn't really about me. It's about justice for Austin and Jessica. And when all things are considered, I'm pretty sure the truth will come out," he said. In the end, they did good despite their pernicious nature. Which is a weird thing for a guy who's on trial for killing both of these people to say.
Yeah, that's like... I don't even know how to describe that. It feels weirdly political.
Yeah.
Like, that's... I would not call that a normal response, but I also don't know what I would call that either. Like, that's just out of the ballpark of what you would expect for an answer.
Yeah. So the jury deliberated for 1.5 days following the 2-month trial, and they determined that Michael was guilty. They also determined that Michael was armed with a gun, which is an enhancement on each of the murder charges that cumulatively adds a mandatory 10 years to his sentence. In a letter read aloud by a victim advocate, Austin's father, Dean Wenner, said that he had reoccurring nightmares about the couple's deaths and the haunting and brutal way they left this world. Jessica's aunt, Gina, called Michael a coward for shooting Jessica and Austin in the back and said his ego and denials will only continue to hurt his own family. Given Michael's age, the 560-month prison term handed down by the King County Superior Court Judge Amy Sutton is a de facto life sentence. Senior Deputy Prosecutor Don Raz said Michael deserved a sentence at the top of the standard sentencing range because of his contempt and utter disrespect for the victims and the subsequent treatment of their bodies, which left to decompose in his backyard before he dumped their parts in the Sound and the Duwamish. Raz said Michael also deserved a long sentence for the trauma he inflicted on Jessica and Austin's families, who spent weeks not knowing what happened to them, and for the disgust, fear, and horror he inflicted on the greater Seattle residents. 2 human beings were murdered, and I think it's what happened after that is what is challenging to understand, Judge Sutton said. Miss Lewis and Mr. Wenner may not have been perfect in their lives, but I don't think of people as pernicious, she said. The fact that the victims' full remains have never been found is its own tragedy. I can only imagine peace might be elusive when you can't lay your beloved family members to rest properly, said the judge. Jessica's aunt Gina said, "It had been a roller coaster ride for 2.5 years. We are relieved and thankful that a jury of his peers were able to sit back and put the pieces of his diabolical puzzle together. In the end, they used their common sense and the evidence to find him guilty on all charges. Our families will never fill the empty void without them that our hearts will always have, but at least now we can truly start the healing process. That seeing her children, we get a glimpse of Jessica and are reminded always of how beautiful she was as a person inside and out."
Oh, that's really sweet.
Yeah. And that's my tale for you today.
All right. Okay, I have a thought.
Okay, what's your thoughts? I'm so intrigued.
So, obviously I'm not an expert. I feel like I just gotta give a disclaimer on that, and the only thing that I know about this case is what you just told me, but there are some weird vibes about this whole thing. Like, I do think he killed them. Like, I do think that happened. He may have had help with taking them apart. Like, I could see that. I just don't know who would be involved in that. But I also think that this wasn't necessarily a spontaneous thing either. Like, I think he really thought, like, if I have tenants who don't pay, I'll just kill them and get rid of their stuff and move somebody in. Like it feels very like, and the way he talked too about like when he was in court, like it feels very it's not that it's unempathetic. It's almost like a weird logical practicality to it of, oh, people move in who don't pay. I kill them, get rid of them, move somebody else in. Oh, I'm in court for these people I killed. Well, here's how it is, guys. Blah, 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 blah. Like, it's just a severe lack of empathy, and he doesn't seem to feel like what he did was wrong either.
See, I don't know. I get caught up on the fact, like, I really do feel like there had to be other people involved for this to make sense.
Well, because maybe he was also involved though with that group that was in their house at some point too. Like, I don't know. Like, I agree. It does feel like there's maybe a little bit more hands in the mix than just this guy, and he's taking the fall for like a few different people. But I don't know. It's weird.
Like, it's not that I think he's innocent. I just think that I have a really hard time picturing it was just him, because like the one thing that always kind of catches me is the fact that there was nothing in his vehicle, and he like literally moved them to dump them in water. So you would think that there would be something.
That's what I mean though. Like, it really feels like, at least for the dismemberment and disposal of the bodies, that he phoned a friend, right? Like, either he knows somebody or he called somebody and was like, hey, I need a favor, and had this done. Like, I don't really know, but there was definitely more than just his sole involvement, at least in my opinion. Like, he killed them? Yes. Do I think that he had the ideas that he did for a reason, and that he did what he did because he was more interested in making money off of people staying there than having people actually stay there? Yes, I do think that. But yeah, I do also think there's more people who at least knew more about what happened, but I don't know.
I don't know. And like, also they did say like that he had someone help him move and get rid of the guns, and like took a picture of like the bullet holes. So obviously there was someone else, at least one other person involved. And the new tenant that moved in that night makes me mad suspicious. Like, why didn't she just immediately call the police? Like, I'm confused.
Well, I'm wondering if it's like like a I don't even know what to say. Like, there's been a few interviews I've seen of people where they talk about living in places that are lower income, where it's more of like, you don't call the police and you're all about the community. Like, people sharing stories about living in the Bronx like 10, 20 years ago as an example, right? Like, they're like, oh, like, if you see something, you don't say anything. Like, you protect yourself. You don't say anything. So I don't know if it's one of these situations where it's maybe a lower income neighborhood and like people just don't. There's a culture of not doing that. But I don't know. There's definitely a lot of things that I would say are weird. I do think they arrested the right guy. Like, I don't really, like, since the beginning of this, I didn't really think he was that innocent anyways, especially with like covering up bullet holes and being like, bullet holes, they were killed in here, but I ain't seen no bullet holes. Like, you know, and he's the landlord. Yeah, just, that's too weird for me. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess like also like a factor could have been, and I'm just completely speculating at this point, is like when you think back to like June 2020, there was a huge movement of distrust of police at that time, especially for like different communities. Like, you know, like, I don't know anything about this other tenant because there's no name given, so you never know what their situation was.
Like, maybe the person who offered information up to the police did so on like a deal where they wouldn't face charges even though they helped this guy either. Like, I guess there is more to this that we probably don't know about, but
yeah, I don't know. Very sad either way. And like, I feel so bad for her kids and all their families. Like, that would be so hard. And on the GoFundMe, this is really sad, but Jaina was like giving updates and stuff, and like literally I think it was a few days after they like found and identified Jessica and Austin's bodies, Jessica's grandpa passed away.
Oh no.
So I just like can't even imagine like what the family would have been going through at that time.
Oh, it just would have rocked their world in a very, very terrible way. Oh, I can't even imagine.
So
yikes. Well, I don't know. I said my piece on what I think about this case, but I will say, just as a sidebar for people who may or may not have viral videos in the future, if it's like harmful to a person and their family, or it might be related to a crime, maybe just take it off. Maybe just don't keep that on the internet. Maybe just send it to police.
Agreed. Maybe showing someone's family member dismembered in a suitcase is not the vibe for TikTok.
Maybe trying to benefit off of another family's pain is just not the way to go. Maybe that's actually bad karma. Maybe.
Yeah. The opposite of trying to figure out which career path you take is posting videos of someone's dead family member online.
100% yes. But yeah, with that brings us to the end of today's episode. Hope you all enjoyed that. In the best way that we can. If you liked us, please leave us a review on wherever you listen to your podcast. Like I've said in the past, 5 stars is preferred, but we get it. Everybody has their own opinion, but I think we're pretty great. And then we also have our social media, which is Wheel of Crime on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. We have our email, which is wheelofcrime@gmail.com if you want to send a message on there. We have our website, which is www.wheelofcrime.com. And we have our Patreon, which is Wheel of Crime at Patreon. And we are still taking listener episode submissions in on our social media. If you want to write in a story for Valentine's Day, we're hoping to get a few more stories submitted. We see that they've been coming in, and we're looking forward to sharing some stories with you all. So if you want to get on that and share, it doesn't have to be Valentine's Day themed. It could just be something that reminds you of a story that we've covered, or maybe you have an add-on to a story that we've covered. That would be great too.
Or a lover's quarrel.
We do love a good crime of passion, so around these parts. So that would be awesome too.
Your lover is haunted by their ex-lover, maybe? I don't know.
The haunted ex, yep, that works too. There's so many options out there, guys, and we're ready for them.
Exactly. So make sure you submit, because we cannot wait to read them.
Woohoo!
But yeah, that's it. That's all. We'll see you next week for another new episode. Okay, bye.
Bye.